Hey guys, welcome back to more Entitled People stories. In this video, a neighbor kept constantly trespassing on my farm and ended up triggering my traps and then calling the cops on me. Let's dive right into the video. The title story starts like this. I have been a POW in the Vietnam War and ain't nobody gonna tell me what I can do on my own property. I've been hunting and trapping for who knows how long and I know a thing or two about safety. I've dodged mines, wrestled alligators and lived to tell a tale or two about bushwhackers here getting their rears reamed like it was Armageddon on steroids, and I did not even flinch. However, when it comes to people trespassing on my farm that I own free and clear just so they can get a rinse out of it, that is when the other boot comes off for some toe kicking and ass whooping. You bet you're a sane monkey that I will personally make it my own vendetta to make sure that you spent an extra hour or two in purgatory after what they did to me recently. And yeah, I thought people had still common sense, but nope. This country seems to be going to hell in a handbasket and I'll be damned if I go right along with it. I've never dealt with such imbeciles as was happened to me a few months ago. So my farm is spread out over 300 acres. There are tons of deer, coyotes, turkey and humans that like to walk through it. The latter being the most annoying piece of you-know-what garbage that just sticks to your boot like maggot juice on a hot summer day. I mean, hell, who do these people think they are? I had to post no trespassing signs all over my property because a bunch of punk kids would come in and have parties and even throw beer bottles everywhere. One time I caught two couples having intercourse on a log near my creek. And then there was this group of redneck marauders who thought it was a good day to die Mad Max style and decided to go mudding everywhere, causing a bunch of erosion near my crops. And then it started to get worse. People started hunting on my property. Once they figured out that there was wild game running through here, they went berserk. I will never forget my one neighbor, Nancy, though. She was the worst. She always snuck around with a rifle and a shotgun, believe it or not, to hunt deer. One time I caught her in the act. I found her riding her four-wheeler through my property one day by looking through my binoculars. I got on mine and sped up to meet her when she was hiding out in the cornfield waiting for some deer to pass. I went over there and started yelling at her, saying, "What in the hell do you think you're doing on my land?" She just looked at me and did not say anything. I knew that she would be back though, and sure enough, the next week she was. This time though, she decided to check out a different spot on my property further away. However, she didn't know that I had trail cameras set up. She thought she could sneak on by and trespass on my property without getting caught. Joke's on her though, I hear this loud bang and realize that she is actually hunting on my property. I imagine she did not have a license because why would she go on my property if she could just go down the road and hunt on designated hunting grounds? Well, some people are just so entitled. Before I could race over there to stop her, she was already gone, and that's when I had a clever idea. I was literally gonna catch her in the act by setting traps. Normally I wouldn't do this, but some people just have rocks for brains. When I set my traps, I always make sure they are visible. When it comes to animals though, I always make sure they are hidden, and being POW here in Illinois allows me to set them. Granted, I follow local guidelines set forth by the IDNR, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. If it were up to me though, I would probably just hide my traps anyway, since most people trespassing through here are just plain animals. Like Nancy, my neighbor. I was fed up. Not only did I set traps, I also put out more no trespassing signs near the traps, so that was basically considered a double whammy. I was hoping it would deter her from trespassing again. Well, it turns out though it didn't work. A few days after I set them, I hear this loud scream while milking my cows. "Ah, what the hell?" came this cry from the woods. The next thing I know, Banks, my livestock guard dog, is running towards the scream, barking as loud as ever. I couldn't stop him from running after her, so I went to grab my gun and ran inside to look at the trail cam. And sure enough, it was Nancy. It's a good thing she didn't land in one of my bear traps. It was basically just a little pit dug out near the side of the creek bed. I put a little bit of leaves over it with some twigs and she fell in it, nearly breaking her leg. The next thing I know, Banks is running up to her and barking and pouncing on her like any guard dog would do. He almost tore her to shreds. She would have been minced meat. I hear another bang go off and I'm thinking, did she just shoot Banks? Hell no! By the time I get there, I find her laying on the ground all screaming and crying and stuff. "Banks, sit," I tell him. Nancy gets up and starts screaming even more, saying, "Riley, what the hell do you think you're doing? I just fell down and your dog attacked me. I'm calling the cops. He chased me all the way over here." She was claiming that Banks led her over here and chased her down and that she then fell in the trap. But actually, I caught her on my trail cam, I had footage, she picks up her phone and calls the cops, they arrive shortly after, and Nancy is infuriated. And so am I. The cops start questioning her and then they make their way over to me privately to answer any questions I had and ask me any questions. I showed them photos of Nancy trespassing and told them that I'd set no trespassing signs all over my property, and she still did not listen. She thought she was in the clear, she had her story and I had mine, but the cards were stacked against her big time. The police go back to their patrol vehicles and look up some information on their computers. I'm sitting here thinking, what the hell is going on? They start laughing and I about lose it. Are they not gonna arrest her sorry ass? After about 30 minutes of bickering back and forth, one of the cops comes back over to me and says, "Mr. Riley, we have looked at the photos that you gave us from your trail cams and we have found evidence that she has trespassed on your property despite the warnings that you gave her. We also found some interesting news that you might find kinda bizarre. She has actually done numerous false police reports around the area and has harassed other neighbors, so you're not the first. We're gonna take her into custody and get her off your hands. Sorry about all of this." I looked at the police officer with wide eyes open and my jaw almost dropped to the ground. It's a good thing too in the state of Illinois that you're allowed to set traps on your own property if you're a POW like myself, otherwise I thought I would have gotten busted or something. Nancy was convicted and fined a ton of money. Her sorry ass never came by my property anymore. I showed the cops that she had trespassed multiple times with the evidence from my trail cams. Since they knew of her criminal background trespassing, they didn't let her go so easily this time. They knew that she was up to no good. Her filing a false police report saying how my dog chased her down and almost mauled her to death backfired big time and she was thrown in jail. She finally got what came to her, she was the caged animal now. And Banks was safe from any danger, he was not deemed unsafe and dangerous like Nancy made him out to be. I enjoy my privacy and peace now more than ever as news got out about Nancy and her arrest. I guess some folks just didn't want to show up on my property anymore and cause a mess too. They probably feared for their life that they would get caught too, and besides, it's not like I got any special unicorns running around my farm for them to hunt. They just wanna be stupid and they can go hunting elsewhere. Serves them right, nobody tells me what to do on my property. And here, Ripe Stars, I would say if you trespass on somebody else's property and get caught in his traps, then that is solely your fault. And you absolutely deserve it if you are a trespassing Karen. Either way, if you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The next one is titled, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to change the ownership of the house I bought for my parents?" So I only read Am I the a-hole posts on Facebook and YouTube usually. This will be my first post. I, 33 female, owned multiple businesses. I'm not really rich, but since I am single and childless, I have a lot of spare money. I also saved a lot for my retirement, since I don't plan to marry and have children. I'm the youngest of my siblings and the one that made most money. My elder siblings sacrificed a lot for me to get education since my father passed away when I was 17. I'm forever grateful for them. My stepfather, Dan, 68 male, fake name, has 10 children with his previous wife. His previous wife passed away from cancer years ago. Dan and my mother, Susan, 58 female, fake name, was introduced when I was 20. I don't like his family, his children are all greedy and selfish. In my country, it's our culture to give money to our parents after we started working. Poor Dan was a school principal, but he loaned a lot of money for all his children, making sure they won't be trapped with student debt. In the end, his monthly pension money will be deducted from the bank to pay debts with little left for their expenses. Luckily, my parents have a farm and that helped them to earn money. My step-siblings always ignored him when he asked for money, and my siblings were always the ones that sent money. My step-siblings will ask for vegetables and chickens from the farm for free. They did not even come inside Dan's house, which is considered rude. They just took the things they needed and left. They rarely came back to visit them, and when they did, they rarely buy groceries. I worked hard to earn money for my family. I figured if I have money, I can solve all their problems and make their worries and sadness from poverty go away. 3 years ago, I bought a house for them and renovated it to their liking. The house is even bigger than my house and Dan's previous house. They can keep their dogs, fishes, chickens and ducks, and Dan is a good person. He helped me and my siblings when we were very poor. I paid for the house maintenance, hired housekeepers and bought groceries every month. I gave them pocket money every month too. I made sure they would never lack of anything or need to work hard again, and all they need to do is relax in their old age. My step-siblings started to come frequently, stayed there at weekends and ate the groceries I bought. All the groceries are high quality, I only buy the best for my parents. Hell, they don't even cook and they expect my mother to cook for them. If not for the 2 housekeepers, my mother will be tired keeping the house clean because all of them are lazy asses. Their children throw snacks on the floor. Me and my siblings appeared amicable with my step-siblings, but we expressed our disapproval behind their backs. We know they do the same. They are two faces after all. They even ask for some money from my stepfather sometimes, the pocket money that I gave to him every month. My stepfather will always give some of his money every time, much to my frustration. They are literally chef, accountants, managers and teachers. A week ago I came back alone to my hometown and stayed in my parents' house. I came to see if my parents lack anything in the house and to see the dogs and 2 cats. 3 of my step-siblings were there with their family. We all talked for a bit in the living room and then the topic of the house ownership came up. Apparently my stepbrother thought the house is on Dan's name. I told him the house is still on my name. They then got upset and passive-aggressively said that I don't trust or care about Dan or my mother, and I asked why does it matter since Dan and my mom live a comfortable life and I would never kick them out. Dan, being a passive-aggressive individual himself, shut them out and praised me, saying that I'm not his daughter but still do more. They were offended and went home that night. They've been making passive-aggressive posts about being controlling on Facebook ever since. My siblings made passive-aggressive posts as well. Most of it are mocking quotes about greedy and shameless people. Am I the a-hole for refusing to change the ownership of the house? Does it matter when I managed everything in the house? Comment number 1, not the a-hole. They are just pissed and hope that you put it in Dan's name, so when he dies they will get it. It's all about them as always. And by the way, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this. Is OP being the a-hole here or not? I'm very curious about your opinion. So you were smart to keep it in your name, otherwise if it was in Dan's and he passed away, first your mom would end up homeless as they would kick her out. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, and this is super weird, but I'd be renovating the guest bedrooms so the step-siblings cannot stay, or at the very least not so many can stay. A drop sheet covering the furniture, a can of paint and a ladder, these can easily be moved for welcome guests, but a great excuse why the leeches cannot stay. The inside joke is that you can just go around in circles blaming you, stepdad and mom as to why these renovations are taking so long. PS, open the can of paint just before they arrive and the whole room will stink. Comment number 3, not the a-hole. I think it might do a lot of good if all this passive-aggressive stuff is dropped and your side of the family, along with your parents and Dan, stop pretending to be nice to the step-siblings' side. For once, stop pretending that everything is so nice and call out all their disgusting behavior and set some rules or simply disown them as no longer your relatives. It's frankly disgusting having to act nice to scumbags like them. Just reading OP's post was pissing me off at the BS the step-siblings were doing. Update to the story, I was planning to visit my parents in my hometown this weekend with my siblings to talk to Dan about my step-siblings' behavior. Turns out Dan already talked to them in their family group chat. My step-siblings were angry. 6 step-siblings threatened to leave the group chat and stop contacting him. Dan said so be it, they didn't do it. I will make it short. Step-siblings spread rumors about me being someone's sugar baby. My nosy aunt heard about the rumor and told my mother and Dan, telling them how ridiculous the rumor was. Number 2, Dan snapped in the group chat and disowned them. He kicked 6 of my step-siblings that spread the rumor out of the group chat. 3, the 4 youngest step-siblings remain in the group. Unlike the elder siblings, they lost their mom when they were young, so they see my mom as their mom. Apparently their elder siblings borrow, coerce, money from them every month. They also decided to go and see with their elder siblings. Me and my family blocked the 6 greedy demons. Thank you for the encouraging words from the previous post. Have a nice day, everyone. And yeah guys, honestly, if you have siblings like this, you certainly don't need enemies anymore. Oh my god. I would not even wish such siblings on my worst enemy. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. A few years back, I worked on a relief crew on a drilling rig. The rig ran 24 hours a day with 3 shifts. Crews worked 6 days and then 2 days off, and my crew would replace a working crew so they could have their 2 days off, so we worked mornings 2 days, then afternoons and then nights. It was common to find someone to take a shift if you wanted an extra day off, but the replacement had to have the same abilities. A crew had a driller, derrick hand, motorman, chain hand and floor hand. People started as floor hand, and as they learned, they would work their way up with more responsibility and more pay. Sometimes, when someone changed companies, they might take a lower position, so it was common to have someone with derrick hand capabilities working motor or chain. In September, my wife asked about the chances of getting off for Christmas. I checked the calendar and my days off fell on December 24th and 25th. Done deal, I have it scheduled off, and then I decided to sweeten the pot. I found a guy who would work December 23rd and 22nd for me. Also found one who would work the 26th and 27th. I took this to my driller, who agreed they could work for me. With my 6 days off, I could drive 400 miles to visit my family. Things looked pretty sweet. Too sweet. The other guys on my crew were in the same position, so they all tried to find replacements, and 2 were successful. Unfortunately, the driller only had 3 other guys on the rig who could work for him, and none of them wanted to help. He got mad and said since he couldn't get the time off, none of us could have it off. I reminded him that he had already approved my time, and he said that was cancelled, and if I didn't work on December 23rd, then I was a run-off MF. Meaning fired. I told him fine, I will work the 23rd, but that will be my last day of work. Consider this my 3-month notice. At work, nothing much was said for the next few weeks. Outside of work, I was networking and found another job I could start the first week of January. All was set, and at the end of my shift on the 23rd, I emptied my work locker and said my goodbyes. The driller barely acknowledged me, went home and drove to see family the next day. I spent a relaxing week there and then came back to start my new job. About the end of January, I went to a friend's birthday party, and there I saw one of my old crew members. He asked me when I was going back to work. The driller thought I was just stalking around and would come crawling back soon. He never hired a replacement, and they'd been working short-handed for over a month. I said he better hire somebody. I was not playing games, and when I said I quit, I meant it. And the next one is an Am I the A-hole story. So, was I an a-hole to my wife? I, 33 male, share 1 child, 6 female, with my wife, 36 female. She has another daughter, 13 female, that lives with us full-time, and we also got custody of our niece, which is 15 female. The teens are each other's best friends. They share a large bedroom, which was done at their request. The dynamic here is pretty much mom and youngest against the teens, with me being the referee between everyone. My wife has taught the youngest she can blame others for her actions to avoid consequences. She just says the word, one of the teens will get punished without question. There's no doubt, she's my wife's favorite. I love her, but she's becoming nothing more than an entitled brat. As just a mere example, my wife and I had an appointment we both needed to attend. When we came back, it was apparent the pool had been used. They are not allowed to swim while we are not home, as the youngest divulged, "Mommy, I was in my room coloring, I never went swimming." The teens said that wasn't true, she had gone swimming as well. Only the teens were punished though, and my wife refused to give the youngest any type of consequence. I later found her wet swimming suit hidden in the garage. Then my wife and I argued, and I felt strongly that she needed to not only be punished for swimming, but also for lying. After a relentless disagreement, I was silenced as she gave the youngest a very minimal consequence. The lying, the blaming, and favoritism ultimately caused the teens to act out understandably. Most of their consequences are done by giving more chores, especially the chores the 6-year-old has. Or as recently, they were removed from music lessons as a consequence. I believe they are so frustrated they don't even care when they verbally attack their mom after her unfair treatment towards them. After all, they already get blamed and punished for things they don't even do. From my perspective, lashing out gives them a release. We've had countless tiring arguments. She'd either not see her faults or we would agree to this and that. But it was never actually done. I decided to write her a performance review as a stay-at-home mom. Her areas in need of improvement, well, it was a lot, but I touched on how she needs to listen better, stop being biased, be fair in all her decisions, stop making rash decisions without taking all 3 kids into consideration. I recommended her to give each child the same amount of one-on-one alone time to speak or just be with one another, so it would not be an entirely slap to her face. I gave her accolades on her strong points for other areas aside from parenting. I guess I felt this would work best because I could organize my thoughts on paper without her interjecting, however it quickly backfired in my face. She was quiet the first hour after I handed it to her, then she completely exploded on me, said that if we're going to do this type of crap she will get a private bank account and take half my paycheck every week. She further said the review was abusive and a manipulative sexist move. And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. I would say from OP's perspective this whole performance review is absolutely unacceptable and stupid, but then again, I would also say that the way the wife handles parenting is far from optimal. She is clearly doing a lot of things wrong here, and it seems like one of the kids is quickly turning into an entitled brat. Either way, let me know what you think in the comments. The first comment said, "Everyone sucks here. The concerns you have are legitimate and it needs an urgent solution, but the way you went about it is really unhealthy. The parenting of your children is not a project, you're not her boss, you are her husband and the father of her kid. Giving her a performance review comes across as really condescending and, as she said, manipulative." Comment number 2, are you her employer? Because employers give performance reviews. Partners don't give performance reviews. Your family, including yourself, needs therapy, a lot of therapy. You are clearly the a-hole. Comment number 3, everyone sucks here, she should be listening better, but seriously? A performance review? What kind of reaction did you expect? You are treating her like a temporary worker, not as your partner. That was unbelievably condescending. You seem to have a you versus me mentality instead of us versus the problem. You all need to find a way to communicate better in a non-adversarial way. Time to get into couples counseling and talk about this like adults. Comment number 4, I was ready to call you an a-hole, but I cannot. I think you acted in desperation because you see your wife favoring the 6-year-old at the expense of the teens. You have the additional fear of the 6-year-old turning into a manipulative brat due to your wife's actions. But did it have to be a performance review? Couldn't you just have written her a heartfelt letter? You've got bigger problems than a pissed off wife. And by the way guys, I would say even a letter is not really the right thing here. I don't understand why people just don't communicate normally these days. Why do you need to write a letter or something? I really don't get it. Anyway, you've got 3 kids who all need a stable home and to be treated fairly and equally. Also, the teens need to be heard. Somehow you've got to convince your wife family therapy is in order. I'm going with NTA. Good luck. And yeah guys, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. And also check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on Spotify, Amazon, Audible and other podcast platforms. You will often find exclusive episodes and early access to new content. Furthermore, please check out my Patreon by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or my YouTube membership program for even more exclusive stories. Thank you so much and I will see you again tomorrow.